Today, I'm sitting down with our head coach at Optimobility, 5-time Ironman world champion, Jameson Plewis, where we're going to be talking about the intricacies of programming and just picking his brain a little bit more since you guys loved the last video. Can't wait to get into it.
So what were like the biggest things you wanted to see in the performance call or in the performance forum once we onboard somebody? Kind of recap. History of training, sport, endurance, and then where they're currently at with it. So you like separated that into 3 categories: complete noob, somewhat experienced, like ex-high school athlete, and then like
currently active.
Currently active. Okay. So what's the philosophy behind doing it that way as opposed to like what we were doing?
Based on the category, I think that kind of determines the level of automation a little bit. See, with a completely novice athlete, we're at the point where I literally have to, just teach them how to ride a bike, for example, or like, basic road laws, like, just the most basic fundamentals to even get to the point where you can effectively train something. Whereas with a more experienced athlete, then our focus shifts away from that more towards the actual training, and then based on their experience and their goals, that determines the programming.
When you say like a bigger bottleneck for somebody that's currently active would actually be the fueling side of things, because a lot of these guys, like, think of where they're currently at. Like Josh works all day. If he didn't have his wife or if he didn't have housekeeper, he would not get nearly the output or the success he's looking for with us because of that.
Yeah, so I need the interview because like we have to go over definitely all the lifestyle factors. It'd be good to get, video, just initial assessment, because the one caveat to having a more experienced athlete is that they've also probably developed bad habits when it comes to training. Because, even with running, you start running one day, nobody tells you what you're doing wrong, and then you just keep running that way for the whole time. And then you have somebody who's actually experienced in the realm of running, they look at your running and they can see everything that's wrong. And then it's much harder to break those habits once you've already kind of cultivated them over multiple years. So yeah, that's the main stuff. Like, we need to go over the lifestyle, like where they're at with their training, need video assessment. I mean, the interview is really the biggest thing. Like, if I can interview potential clients, then that I can give them, it won't take me long to give them a pretty clear breakdown, like based on their goals and where they're at, like what it's going to take to get to.
What makes you so confident in having that short amount of time, being easily able to identify like what the biggest levers are for your programming, as opposed to like, I don't know, taking 30 minutes, an hour to do it? Like it sounds really easy for you to do.
Yeah. Well,
is that just experience, or is it like what are the biggest bottlenecks that you can identify quickly to know how to program that?
Well, it's just I've spent my entire life now with athletes, so I know, bro. I can identify every single potential issue that an athlete is going to have basically immediately at this point. But I also have a very good understanding of like what it takes based on the goals that they want to achieve. And so as long as I can just meet them, go over their history and stuff a little bit, I can get a very good idea of what it's going to take. So.
And does that affect your coaching? Like, do you coach someone that's currently active versus William differently?
Yes.
Because it's not redundant, right? Like, if they're not currently active, a lot of it is just like the mundane stuff. It's not the high level stuff that you probably find the most rewarding.
Yeah, so with somebody more like William, we're at the point where I have to physically train them, how to ride a bike properly so that we can get to the point where he can ride safely and actually, do a workout, like learn how to operate all the equipment, because it is like a very technical sport now, especially cycling. So there's a lot of, skills just around learning how to train. Whereas, somebody who's already, been in that world for a while and they know how to do all that stuff and they're just focused purely on, the numbers and the performance, then there's a whole different set of programming that I'm going to do for that person versus William.
So one thing is, like, when people try and step into the sport, what percentage of people do you think just fall off because they don't have like those core fundamentals down? Like we were talking about, somebody that steps into road cycling, the first 3 months are scary as hell. Because you're on 2 surface planes that are 25 millimeters, and you have to like navigate cars and roads and stop signs and all those things. So let's say they get the full suite. Let's say somebody steps in, they know everything that they need to know about riding a bike and all those things. What is their their likelihood of success versus somebody that maybe gets scared out of it early on, would you say?
It's hard to know proportions, but certainly with a good coach providing proper oversight, your probability of success is many magnitudes higher.
Yeah, exponentially higher.
Yeah, because there's just so many things that a novice athlete doesn't know, and that they don't even know that they don't know. Without a proper coach there to just provide some guidance, then it's very intimidating, to say the least, to get into these sports. So.
And out of like the 3 sectors that it's 4 now. Actually, it's not even 4, it's 5. It's performance, fuel, recovery, science, and support. So support is the coaching, science is like explaining the science behind people's data to them, and then the 3 categories easily bleed into training, nutrition, and recovery. Why do you feel like it's important to have a hand in all those things and not just like throw in a training plan and call it a day?
I mean, we're heavily invested in the success of these athletes. So just say when Josh wants to achieve a 400 watt FTP, that is a exceptionally high number. You can't just Ricky Bobby it. Like you can't just get on the bike, do some random workout, and then not worry about anything else. Like at that level of achievement, everything has to be dialed in. Like your sleep, your nutrition, recovery, the periodization in the training, the specific workouts you're doing, everything pretty much needs to serve that singular goal to achieve that number.
And he hit like 385, which is, I mean, we're basing it on the 20-minute interval. So he was a little short, and that was because he took 2 weeks off before the actual test, right? So how do you think that, like that small little detail of just not, I'd say, tapering properly for it, affected the result that the client was looking for? It's like with the smallest kink in the armor completely destroys the integrity of the whole thing. It's kind of like Achilles in a way, right? Like it's that heel. You hit the heel, the whole thing shatters.
Yeah, so I think ideally in his case, it would have been good just to reset and take a couple more weeks just to get him back, because it would have only taken
3-4.
Well, probably honestly just 10 days of
okay.
training to get him back to baseline, and then we do another week or 2 of just good solid workouts, build the confidence back, and then he most likely would have been back to where he was at. Like he has a very well developed structure. He's been cycling for a long time, so a guy like that is not going to lose fitness nearly as fast as somebody who's newer. He's
weird because there was something with his heart rate, I forget what it was, but he was putting out more power for less heart rate the more and more he adhered to some extent, and then as we saw weight go up, we actually saw performance go down. So it was interesting to like analyze his feedback and still being able to put up very respectable numbers on the bike after 2 weeks off is definitely no easy feat. But now it's definitely a shift in his goal structure. So it'll be an interesting case.
No, we just need to reset. Well, a couple solid months, just doesn't have to be super serious training, but we just need consistent zone 2 riding, 1 or 2 smaller workouts per week. It's no problem.
That's what it was. It went from summer to winter in Australia, and then zone 2 time went from 9 hours all the way to like an hour to 2 hours a week, and then you just saw weight shoot up, which is kind of funny with like bigger, heavier guys like me. I noticed that too, where if I'm not doing zone 2 training, I'll just see the scale continue to climb. Which is pretty discouraging when you're not doing it, but it just kind of stresses the importance of it. So how important is zone 2 training? Because I know that was, whenever I looked at your Strava before we met, it was like 85 and 90% of all your training was zone 2.
Oh yeah, at least 95%, bro. Like, it's absolutely fundamental. Like that's the foundation for your home. It depends, on what your just say goal distance is for a race. But for sports like cycling or Ironman or more long distance running, your zone 2 training is basically the most important training that you're doing, especially during the off season when you're developing the aerobic structure, because that's what makes you fit. It makes you bulletproof. It hardens up your legs, and then when real training season comes around again, you're way more capable of taking on the workouts that are actually making you fast and strong and powerful. You would only be able to do half as well if you didn't have the structure prior. And it also is making you way more injury resilient.
And it's the reason why is because low recovery time, high oxidization. It's like only one of the only zones that actually taps into fully oxidizing the muscle as the main source of energy output. Which reduces fat because you're just training your body to be that much more efficient and use conserved energy for prolonged periods of time. and it builds up endurance time as well.
Yep.
But what would you say is the, like, besides those things, like, why do you think that humans have like adapted in that way with that sort of training, and what makes it like that much more powerful than the others?
Well, specifically what zone 2 training is doing is improving the mitochondrial density in your muscles. So over time, over a couple months to years of dedicated zone 2 training, you can very respectably increase your mitochondrial density. And so that is what is allowing your muscles to actually utilize energy and produce power. So when it comes to now, so you've done your zone 2 training, when it comes now to the training season or racing and you're going out there, it's like adding a turbocharger to your muscles, basically. Like their ability to sequester carbohydrates and convert them to power is so much better than an athlete who did not train that system.
Do you think that's why I saw success on my marathon with fueling? Because I just had that zone 2 base built up. I didn't urinate, I didn't poo on the actual race day because of that reason? Or do you see like athletes have hit or misses with their nutrition for a big event?
Yeah, so being somebody who's trained better that way, like your ability to utilize carbohydrates, produce power with them is just so much better than somebody else. So when you're taking a gel, drinking a Gatorade, whatever, way more of that energy is going just towards forward movement instead of being wasted as heat or just being excreted and unused. So
well, you've also had cases where, like, one of our friends that you coach, they're the beginning of the max out effort.
yeah,
We saw a lot of problems at the 20 to 30K mark with fueling, where it'd just be a sudden crash.
Yeah.
And I just remember him saying, like, he could always do more, and he had more in the tank. It was just the stomach. So where do you kind of see the causation with athletes and like fueling in terms of their nutrition? Like, where does that kind of usually go downhill?
when it comes to fueling, especially at a high intensity, like if you're running a marathon, now there's a lot more factors affecting, because it's purely dependent basically on your gastrointestinal system. So now when you have high stress, high heat, just pouring carbohydrates, water, salt, gels, bananas, everything down there and expecting, your gastrointestinal system to actually digest it while you're also running at 180 beats per minute in, hot weather. It's extremely stressful and it vastly reduces your GI's ability to actually metabolize and utilize this stuff. So what a lot of people don't realize.
And then there's the aftermath too.
Yeah,
that's a
this
whole other
aftermath.
thing.
This is also a skill that you have to train. A lot of people don't really realize this until it's
Race day.
until race day, and then they realize like, oh, I've never actually done a long, hard effort and tried to fuel it the same way that I would fuel in a race. 'Cause
Totally fucking different.
in a race, you're not stopping halfway to relax, drink some water, stop at a water fountain or something. Like, no, you're fully locked in the whole time, and you're consuming calories during the actual activity. So it's a much different skill. I mean, it took me a very long time. Like when I started, I could really only handle 60, 70 grams carbohydrates per hour, and then by the end of my career, I was taking in 150 grams carbohydrates per hour in like 35 Celsius high humidity, like no problem.
Yeah.
So it's a skill over time that has to be developed.
Yeah, I noticed after my marathon, I had extreme GI problems, but during the race I was really good.
Yeah.
And then I did the NAC glycine, bromelain. I stopped MSM because it was too intense. So I just did those twos, and then a GI rebalancer.
Yeah.
And I actually had to heal, I think it was my liver, from potentially residual COVID or whatever the hell that was, after the race. And like the race identified that sort of inflammation. So what would you kind of say is a normal, post-race, like when you race Kona or if you race Ironmans, like what's the normal amount of time, and do you take anything after to just like rebalance your stomach so that your GI can kind of heal perpetually? Because now I notice, like yesterday I did the Bikey program for me, and when I'm pushing that zone 4, zone 5 in the heat, I do like I told you a while ago, this morning I didn't want to eat anything. Like I didn't even want to have dinner. So like, what do you notice is the cause and effect of that whole cycle post event?
It's very individual. You know, just say after an Ironman, for example, even a very well-trained athlete, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks before you can consider yourself even reasonably recovered, metabolically speaking. Like your legs might feel fine 5 days later, but in terms of like your actual
digestion,
your digestion, like your body's ability to, because it's such a high stress.
It's some of the highest stress we're adapted to as humans.
That's
right?
the thing. So through stress comes adaptation. So when you take on one of these events like a marathon or an Ironman, you're putting your body under so much stress that it's physically changing its genetics to support that event. So it takes a while to reset those systems and get back to baseline before you're 100% healthy again. Like even for me, it would take 5-6 weeks after an Ironman.
That makes sense.
There's
2 realms of health right now with the GI tract and digestion that have seen crazy improvements. The first one is fasting. So how would you kind of compare what your body goes through and the havoc that's wreaked upon it when you do a marathon and Ironman versus fasting? Is it that different? Are there benefits with excessive training and healing the gut, etc., or is that just like wreak havoc and it needs time to repair?
Personally, when I was at a very high level, during a rest week, I would incorporate just a 24-hour fast because that lifestyle is exceptionally hard on your gastrointestinal system, and I do think it was very useful to be doing that. Taking care of your gut is one of the most important parts of your health, just in general. Like even beyond sport, your gut is one of the most important. Because technically now there's a lot of research coming out that like your gut has basically its own brain. It's got its own nervous system.
Of course.
And it's that has a very strong effect on your overall health, mood, everything. So taking care of this system is super important.
Sweet. Cool. Is there anything else that you would add on to like fuel, perform, recover, and some of those things we talked about this morning that you think we could be doing better and utilizing data points better with some of the agents that I showed you, or anything notable there?
Well, I think for your planning in that regard is like very superior. The only thing I'd add is like for the guys that are just going for pure performance, I can get them on that diet plan.
That's its own niche, right?
That's its own thing. Like we're talking like drinking coffee creamer and shit. Like it gets greasy. But when it comes to just pure performance, that's what it takes.
Right. Yeah. Now our current offer structure, and I'm telling you this now. I forgot to tell you, is we have the lifestyle concierge guys, which are like people that don't have a performance goal, that just want to be healthy because they know it's important, but they don't have the training allowance to go as granular as like Josh or William. And then the other side of the spectrum is the performance clients, which is what you just described pretty much. So that variance is beneficial for people because they have that bucket to choose, because it is, as we've talked about today, with history of training, where they're currently at, achieving their highest level of power over X amount of time, video assessment, fueling. It gets you really, really, really granular with performance, which is what you excel. Even if we have the data, it's about like putting that to work properly, but it's on the right track.
Clear goals and good data.
Yeah.